What happens when the world gets turned on its head? We're forced to look inward, perhaps become fearful, sometimes lash out at others. While there are others in the world who don't give up hope because they believe in people. Join me, Kevin Tibbles, and Amy Goldberg for our new podcast, Believe in People, where we meet those who don't give up hope.
Today, we are going to bring you something special. Today, we're going to visit Greenland and spend some time with Ivalo Arnfjord.
Ivalo not only lives in what many of us would consider a very isolated place, she has emerged from a difficult upbringing of isolation and substance abuse and has found inner calm and peace.
From hardship and an environment of isolation, she shares her warmth. And as you will soon find out, she is one of the warmest people on the planet. Ivalo, welcome to Believe in People.
Thank you.
Oh, it's so great for you to be here. I understand that English is your third, it's like almost a third and a half language for you. You speak Greenlandic, that's your mother tongue. You speak Danish, English, and a little bit of Spanish, which
Yes.
brings me to, I heard a podcast that you were on and you said, which I absolutely love, you said, being heard is important. Listening is profound. The ability to listen. Well, we're certainly here to listen to you today. So question for you, just to share with the listeners and the viewers, tell us a little bit about your upbringing.
All right. I am currently living in Nuuk, the capital of Greenland. I was born and raised in South Greenland, a little city called Qaqortoq. It means white, and there is about 3,000 people. I am the eldest of 4 siblings. I have a sister and we have 2 brothers, and we had a very normal upbringing, but we had problems at home. Our parents had, in their relationship, they didn't really had a great relationship, and they drank, and then sometimes there were violence. So that means somehow I ended up being a little mom to my siblings while I was taking my education in the public school. And what else? Then when I was 9 years old, I was unfortunately sexual assaulted by a man who were a distant family member. So that was one of my first frightening traumas. And then what else? And then after public school, I had an opportunity to be an exchange student in Panama. So that changed my life very much because I learned a new culture. I learned new language, and then I had new friends and had a very bigger picture of the world. And then when I came back, I started to go to high school and got friends, and we started to drink a lot in the weekends. And in somehow I also became a mini kleptoman where I stole some stuff in the shops. So even though I was not a rebellion, but I had some internal struggles, but I also unfortunately was raped when I was 19 years old. That led me to a big dark period of my life where I was so depressed and lonely and didn't really know where to get help. So I was in a very dark period of my life. That's short story of my childhood and adolescence.
Can you tell us a little bit about, I mean, you live in Greenland, which is very similar, I would assume, to many other very small, isolated communities in the Arctic, be it in Alaska, northern Canada, Norway, even Russia, I would assume, within an indigenous community. How did that isolation, or how did that isolation and the encroachment of, I would assume, a Western European customs, did that affect, when you talked about your parents, for example, did those customs encroach on the native indigenous culture in a way that sort of damaged the direction that your parents probably would have gone in otherwise, and perhaps yourself?
Yeah, those. I can't speak for my parents, but my grandparents, they have been under a very rapid or very quick transformation or change in the society. So I can imagine it hasn't been easy. What I have discovered in my own education is, when I look at the childhood education, is how the Danish government came to Greenland and helped to build the society. And many of the times, the cultural sensitivity has not been normal back then. So their purpose or the goals when they come to Greenland is to learn the Greenlandic people Danish language and have a modernized or industrialized life. So I can imagine it must be very difficult to see and just observe the society changing that way without you having to have an opinion or have a saying. So that's what I can tell you.
And, Ivalo, to that point, then, not only are you trying to figure out your own journey and experiences, but also and understand what are your options, but also that your culture is compromised because you have to assimilate into a different kind of lifestyle. So where in your life did you decide that, given that you were trying to raise your siblings, you're struggling and life happens and you struggled with that? How did you turn it around? Like, what was that moment where you said, okay, wait a minute, I have other options? When was that for you?
I think when I was in my early 20s, right after those traumas, I decided internally that I didn't want to live the lives my family has been living. So I started digging into the self-help universe, and also how do you call where you get help to stop drinking, alcohol treatments. So I somehow decided to be happy, and I wanted to have a great life. So I started digging and learning in the self-help universe, and trying to understand myself, being in the nature, and then listening to myself, and did a lot of inner work. So I just decided that I didn't want to live the same pattern as my family have been living.
And now you can pass that on to others?
Hopefully.
How do you do that?
When I had my first insight in 2018, that insight changed my life completely, because I understood that my well-meaning struggle to create a beautiful life, or helping myself through meditation, through healing, through speaking with a psychologist, through any kind of method or techniques you can find in psychology world or spiritual world or self-help universe world. I saw that it didn't help me. I saw that I have created a tunnel where I was not in touch with life. I saw that I have been looking for answers outside of myself so much in so many years, maybe about 15, 20 years. When I saw I have been looking in the wrong direction, I can say, it led me to listen to my heart, and I had to give up everything I have learned. So that was the change that transformed my life, and we are doing. We are sharing our stories when to the rest of Greenland, to the Greenlandic speakers, of how we can find ourselves.
And Ivalo, how do you do that? So we've been talking about, this has been an interesting theme for us. And Kevin has asked questions in the past around, okay, if it starts from the inside, despite all of the external circumstances, how, and can you share with our listeners and viewers, how exactly do you start? Like, how do you quiet the noise, or do you listen to it and then you evolve in a certain way? Like, give us one tip in which we can sort of start from.
Just like sharing your own insights is enough. Sharing your own personal transformation story and telling to others is enough. And then they might be able to listen to their own heart. So that's the simple thing I can say.
So, Ivalo, did you say to yourself, okay, that's enough? Like, was there a trigger to say, okay, wait a minute, that's it. I've been the victim. Now I'm going to take control. Like, what's that one story for you? I'm just trying to wrap my head around what was that for you, that story?
It didn't happen from my own personal power. I was just open-minded. And I had no expectations when that happened. And what happened is that I was listening to the psychologist from Denmark, Mette Louise Holland. She had written a book, and that book was in audio, and I was listening to that while I was on an airplane. And something tremendous inside happened to me. I saw from within how I was not damaged. I have never been damaged, and my soul will never be damaged. It's all thought created, and I have believed my thought that I was broken, that I need to be fixed. The things that I saw within myself just happened naturally or organically. I didn't make it happen. So I think that's the magic about this understanding. It happens, it occurs on itself, or it happens without expecting it or forcing it. It just appears to you or uncovers to you. So it's something that my mind cannot understand still today, because it just happened. And it's not under my control, and it's not intellectually, it's from, I don't know, the light within just pops, or I don't know how to say that, but I saw something within, and then it was the absolute truth I saw. And then everything outside of myself also changed right away. So I'm maybe that's, I don't know how to explain that.
It sounds to me like what you're explaining is empowerment, but empowerment
of your own self, your own soul. And that can only come from within you.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
I
Because
don't
I
want
tried
to
to
go
my
ahead.
psychologist from when I went to my psychologist for many years, and I was giving my power away because I thought that because she's a psychologist, she knows how to fix me. So when I had my insights or realizations, I saw because I have believed in those thoughts. That's I kept myself in that prison where I repeating this offer mentality, our victim mentality. So it was also very innocent of me and of her that we tried to fix something that doesn't need to be fixed. So and when I had my insights, I felt healed. I felt complete. I felt that I was one with everything. So in a way, it's a very spiritual experience. I saw this spirituality from my heart, and I saw my spiritual journey has been so much in the intellectual level, and somehow it entered my heart. So it just happened, and then it's like all the puzzles that were everywhere finally were together, and I saw that I didn't even have to do anything to see that and understand that. And then yeah, it's wonderful. That's why I cannot keep it to myself. I have to share, and whoever who are interested will listen to that.
I feel uncomfortable asking this, but I'm going to anyway, and I apologize if anyone is offended, but you sound like you have found your own personal roadmap, a roadmap to freedom, really, from external forces. Why is it that so many isolated indigenous communities around the world do suffer so much from alcohol and drug abuse and physical abuse and sexual abuse and child abuse? Well, why does that happen?
Because they are suffering. They are carrying so much thoughts. They are carrying so much traumas, and they just like to feel okay. And they think that they need external things to get better. Like I was searching and trying different kind of things outside of myself to fix myself, but that never happened during those 15, 20 years. So the people who are suffering, they are doing their best to get rid of their problems from their own story that they have created, and they are living in the bubble, and somehow maybe they have lost themselves. And then the amazing stories that we have here in Greenland is that when they realize that they are not their thoughts, that they are the thinkers, they automatically get rid of anxiety and depression or any kind of traumas they have had. They realize it's thought created, and that they innocently had carried those heavy stories in their head, and they see that they don't have to carry them anymore. So somehow, because they have labeled themselves with so many diagnoses or other things, they realize it's not who they really are. They realize that they are more than labels, they are more than their stories, they are more than their sickness. So somehow they wake up, and then they figure it out that they don't have to be in their own prison that they have created. So somehow the freedom comes in that way for them. So inner freedom comes when they see that they are not their thoughts, but they have a different relationship to their thoughts. So even though that the world hasn't changed, but their inner world has changed. So that I see that happening all over, so many times. So that gives me hope, and that gives me so much belief in the change of those societies that have been under tremendous traumas in indigenous societies or small communities. So I am very hopeful, and I wish and I hope that I will work with that the rest of my life, because it's that good.
That's wonderful, Ivalo. And so from that work, from your the experiences you had, tell us a little bit. You're a PhD candidate, aren't you? Could you tell us about that? What are you studying?
I am studying play in early childhood education. I had an insight last year where that nobody or not many people, there are not many people in the world that knows enough about play. Even though I am a social pedagogue where I am educated to work with people and also in early childhood education, I have never really learned about anything about play. And then I start learning about what play actually is, what play means in our lives. And that's what I'm researching about now, is doing field works in daycare institutions and watch children, observe children, how they play with it, how they play, and also their playing environment. So in hope of to talk more about the importance of play in life in any ages.
You know what you talked about a few minutes ago, I would assume that people on my side and Amy's side as well would need to undergo some kind of inner transformation in so far as the way we perceive Indigenous people as well. If an Indigenous person has the thought that if Indigenous people carry these traumas along with them, there are other people in the world that fortify those traumas by the way that they treat those communities or look at those communities, perceive those communities. And I would assume that watching these children develop and instilling a sense of, well, you use play, but play also has rules, and play is also perhaps very innocent and honest, but perhaps these perceptions, these prejudices, these things that are in people's heads as opposed to their hearts, we can start changing these things at a very young age through what you're doing.
I am imagining that with this understanding, that people who works with other people, even if they are young or if they're old, that they can see the health within the persons that they're working. So instead of seeing the the things that they need to be fixed, or the things that they need to develop, the things that they need to be something. Instead of seeing those, that I hope that we can surpass or go beyond the thoughts, beyond the personalities, or beyond the problems, and see the inner health, the inner wisdom each human being has. So in any countries, in any ages, we can start to listen to the people instead of our own thoughts, instead of our own perceptions or perspectives. It's beyond those things that we get to see the person as a healthy, as beautiful, as a soul, or as love. So it's beyond the theories, beyond anything, that we are more than the physical, we are more than our stories, we are more than our cultures, that somehow we are the same. I'm guessing that gives me so much hope. And that's why I keep doing this work, because I have not seen any other things that give me so much joy. So it's so simple, and it doesn't require so much work. You only have to be open-minded and looking in that direction.
And Ivalo, you touched on hope and the work that you're doing with people. Each week, Kevin and I ask the question, why do you believe in people? And I think the addition to that question for you is, why should others believe in people?
Because I know in any addictions, people crave connection. And also in the connection, that is the thing that for me, that I create a relationship. And if I don't believe in people, I wouldn't be able to have connections and create relationships. And then how can I not believe in people, and knowing that we are all one spiritually? I cannot disconnect from myself, from others, because I don't know, that doesn't I don't know, it doesn't make sense if I don't believe in people.
We're happy you believe in people.
We're also very happy that you joined us today. Thank you very much. Before we let you go, though, I would like you to tell everyone who's listening what your last name means in Greenland. Arnfjord.
Yeah, my name is Ivalo Arnfjord. Arnfjord is from my husband, and it means eagle fjord. So it's not Greenlandic, it's Danish.
Okay.
Or it's my husband is also Danish, so it's from his family, but it means eagle fjord.
And we've just spoken with such a strong person, so I think you have a perfect Danish husbandic last name. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, that was one of the most inspirational conversations I've had in some time with, it is interesting that living a life of isolation brings issues in and of itself. But what Ivalo is talking about is that sort of isolation of your soul as well, that really can sort of begin to tear away at the threads of who you are. And I'm just very happy that she shared her story with us on how to salvage yourself when that happens.
And the fact too, Kev, that she is taking that story and helping other people with it. So she's learning
Absolutely.
she really speaks from her heart, and you can feel that. So I'm so happy that we had a chance to meet. She's really an inspiration. And if you've been inspired by the story, we encourage you to subscribe to Believe in People. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.